Jessica Miller was already rocking the worst Monday ever. Racing through the sleek steel and glass hallways of Sterling Corp, she was minutes from blowing her interpreter gig before she even signed the damn contract. Way to go, Jess, she muttered, clutching her bag and tablet like lifelines. World record for shortest employment incoming. Then, disaster struck, stomach churning, ice water in the veins disaster. Bathroom, needed, now. Panic flared, but then a beacon of hope, a little stick figure icon on a door sign. Relief flooded her. Without a second thought, she shoved the door open and hurried in. Hands washed, a shaky breath released. And then the world tilted. No makeup mirrors? Where were the tampon disposal bins? Wait, were those men's voices? Dude, that Q3 report was a train wreck. And Sterling? Man, have you seen him blow a gasket? Jessica froze. Men's voices? She blinked, spun around. Nope. No mistake, this was not happening. Heart hammering against her ribs, brain short-circuiting, stomach in knots, she was in the men's room. Pure, unadulterated panic seized her. Spinning again, she did the only logical thing a sane person would do. Bolted into the nearest stall, slamming the door shut. Okay, Jess. Deep breaths. They'd leave. She'd slip out. No one would ever know. Genius plan, right? Except for the tiny details she forgot in her panic tsunami, locking the door. Fate, it seemed, had a cruel sense of humor. The handle turned. The stall door swung inward, and there he was. Towering, ripped, clad only in a white towel, stood him. Jessica's eyes locked onto the stranger's. Holy! Alexander Sterling practically yelled, recoiling like she was Medusa. What the hell? Jessica, already petrified, yelped too. Why are you screaming? She screeched, grabbing the nearest toilet paper roll like a weapon of mass destruction. Why are you in here? Sterling shot back, towel clutched precariously, trying to decipher if this was some elaborate prank or he'd finally lost it. Jessica's brain short-circuited. 3 words echoed in her mind. I am so dead. Her gaze drifted south, zeroing in on the CEO's frankly insane abs. Realizing she was staring, she snapped her head back so fast she almost gave herself whiplash. Sorry, didn't see anything, she blurted, hands clamped over her eyes. Yeah, you did, Sterling snapped, his voice dangerously low. Dignity was clearly on the line here. Full-blown meltdown mode engaged, Jessica scrambled backwards, slipped on the bath mat, and landed flat on her butt on the cold tile floor. Ouch! Sterling closed his eyes for a beat, like pleading with the universe for mercy. Tell me this is a nightmare. Any second now, I'm waking up. Jessica, teetering on the edge of a full-blown anxiety attack, tried to scramble for a plausible explanation. She pointed wildly at the toilet, desperation clawing at her throat. Sanitary audit. Yes, sanitary safety audit in the men's bathroom. Sterling arms crossed, face a mask of thunder. Sanitary safety, he echoed, voice dripping with disbelief. In the Sterling Corp executive men's restroom, during work hours? Yeah, new initiative, cutting edge, first company to try it, gotta go now. Jessica tried to sidle past him, but he blocked her path, an immovable wall of towel-clad CEO. He sighed, rubbing his temples like this was the most ridiculous thing he'd ever dealt with, and let's face it, at Sterling Corp, that was saying something. Hidden camera prank? Is this some kind of... He scanned the room, eyes narrowed, searching for non-existent lenses. Jessica's eyes widened in horror. No cameras, wrong door, just wrong door. Sterling squeezed his eyes shut, took a massive, shuddering breath, clinging to the last vestiges of his sanity. Just get out. Jessica scrambled to her feet, only to smack her head on the stall wall. Ouch! Sterling ran a hand down his face, the picture of a man on the verge of a complete and utter breakdown. Are you actively trying to self-destruct in front of me? Not intentionally. Then move, before someone walks in and thinks the CEO is kidnapping an employee in the men's restroom. The sheer absurdity of the image seemed to kick Jessica into overdrive. She stumbled out of the stall, tripped over a janitor's cart, and sent a bucket of soapy water flying across the pristine floor, narrowly missing Sterling. Jessica stared at the mess, then at Sterling, then back at the mess. Hired and fired. Same day. New record. Get out, Sterling practically roared. Yes, sir! And Jessica bolted. Face burning, humiliation of physical ache, she fled the scene. But fate wasn't done with her yet. Oh no, because when Sterling, finally composed, suited up and stormed into the executive conference room, there she was. Jessica Miller, sitting amongst the VPs, looking like she wanted to evaporate. She tried a weak, nervous smile. Sterling stopped dead. No. Freaking way. Eyes narrowed, he stared. What? He finally ground out. Are you doing here? Jessica swallowed hard. Mr. Sterling, she started, voice barely a whisper. I'm your new interpreter. Silence descended, thick and suffocating. You could hear a pin drop, or maybe Jessica's heart pounding in her ears. Sterling closed his eyes, another deep, shuddering breath. I'm being punished. Definitely being punished for something in a past life. Alexander Sterling was still trying to process the sheer, unadulterated insanity of it all. The woman he'd found cowering in a stall, the woman who'd almost given him a heart attack, the walking disaster who'd unleashed a tidal wave of mop water in his bathroom. Was his new interpreter? This had to be some cosmic joke. The room was silent, all eyes ping-ponging between him and Jessica, who was now attempting to become one with a stack of presentation folders. She was sweating, profusely. You, Sterling finally said, voice dangerously soft, eyes locked on her. You're my interpreter. Jessica, bracing for the axe to fall, tried for a professional tone. Technically, yes. Technically, Sterling repeated, arms crossed, a predator circling its prey. She cleared her throat, forced a smile. I mean, yes. I was hired to assist with international meetings, ensure smooth communication. Sterling blinked slowly. And you decided to kick off your illustrious career here by barging into the men's restroom. Jessica squeezed her eyes shut for a split second. Minor navigation error. Navigation error, Sterling echoed, a muscle twitching in his jaw. Yes. Got lost. Confused. Wrong door. Poof. Stall. You. Accidentally. She finished with a nervous laugh that died in the tense air. The silence stretched until one of the VPs, bless his soul, chuckled nervously. Well, at least we know Ms. Miller has an adventurous spirit. A few polite titters rippled through the room. Sterling, however, was not amused. He ran a hand over his face, fighting for composure. Do I really deserve this? Is the universe actively conspiring against me? His gaze landed back on Jessica, who was now frantically shuffling papers, pretending to be intensely busy. Great. Just great. Now I have to work with her. He pulled out his chair, sat, tapped his fingers on the polished table. All right. Since we're all here, let's begin. Jessica let out a silent sigh of relief. Maybe, just maybe, he'd let it drop. But then, Ms. Miller. Jessica froze. Translate what I just said. Jessica blinked. Huh? Sterling tilted his head, a predatory gleam in his eyes. I said, I want you to translate. Now. She swallowed hard. Oh, he was going to test her. Okay, Jess, deep breaths. You prepped for this. You got this. Taking a beat to gather herself, she looked at the foreign investors and in flawless French smoothly translated Sterling's words. Heads nodded in approval, but Sterling remained unconvinced. He proceeded to pepper her with rapid-fire phrases, testing her relentlessly. Translate this. And this. Now, this one. With each challenge, Jessica responded with unwavering confidence, translating with speed and precision, adapting her language effortlessly. The executives were impressed. Jessica clearly knew her stuff. She was quick, accurate, and damn good. By the end of the meeting, everyone was satisfied. Everyone except Sterling. He was still searching for a reason to can her on the spot. As soon as the investors were gone, he turned to Jessica, eyes narrowed. 1 week. Jessica blinked. You have 1 week to prove you deserve this job, he stated, standing, buttoning his jacket. One mistake. You're out. Jessica blinked again. 1 week? Exactly. Exactly. Sterling smirked. A flash of something almost amused. She crossed her arms. So if I survive a week, you can't fire me? If you survive, Sterling repeated, that smirk widening, don't get too attached to the office plants. He shot her one last laser beam glare and stalked out. The door clicked shut, and Jessica slumped into her chair, a long, shaky breath escaping her lips. 1 week? Are you kidding me? No way was she losing this job. And if Alexander Sterling thought she'd crumble and quit, he was about to be seriously surprised. The next few days were a gauntlet. Sterling threw everything he had at her. Impossible translation requests, cryptic summaries, meetings scheduled with zero notice. But Jessica didn't flinch. She met every challenge head-on, stumbling sometimes, sure, but always recovering, always delivering. And the most infuriating part for Sterling, she did it all with a damn sense of humor. One morning, Sterling materialized at her desk, dropping a report the size of a phone book in front of her. Translate. 2 hours. Jessica eyed the stack, then him. 2 hours. Problem? She asked, a sweet, innocent smile plastered on her face. Just trying to gauge if you have any concept of time or if you're operating on some alternate dimension schedule. Sterling's eyebrows shot up. I heard you were supposed to be working, Ms. Miller. His eyes narrowed. Good point, Jessica conceded, smile widening, then stop talking and start translating. Jessica sighed dramatically, but grabbed the documents and got to work. And, to Sterling's utter frustration, she finished. On time. But not every moment was a victory. By day 4, Jessica was running on fumes. Barely slept, fueled by caffeine and sheer willpower. She was so exhausted that when Sterling barked a question at her, she answered in German, without even realizing it. He raised an eyebrow, a silent question mark hanging in the air. What? Jessica blinked, brain still struggling to catch up. Did I forget to switch back to English? Yes, silence. Well, Jessica shrugged, completely defeated. You should learn German. It's a beautiful language. Not even trying to explain herself. Sterling ran a hand down his face. This woman is going to drive me certifiable. By the end of the week, Jessica walked into Sterling's office, bracing for her final judgment. He stood by the window, hands in pockets, back to her. Sit, he said, voice flat, still not turning around. Jessica obeyed, heart pounding. Finally, he turned. You passed the test. Jessica nearly choked on her own spit. What? Sterling sighed. Actually sighed. I'll admit it. You're better than I expected. Jessica blinked. Was that a compliment from Alexander Sterling? Don't get used to it, he snapped, instantly reverting to grumpy CEO mode. She grinned, unable to help herself. Alexander Sterling, the human iceberg, just admitted he needed her. Historic. She narrowed her eyes at her. Just try not to get into any more trouble. Jessica stood, gathering her things. Promise, no more men's restrooms. Good. But as she walked out, a ghost of a smile flickered across Sterling's lips. He wouldn't admit it, not to anyone, least of all himself. But something about Jessica Miller intrigued him, and that, frankly, irritated him to no end. Jessica was settling into a routine, or as much of a routine as working for Alexander Sterling allowed. It was less a job, more a daily skirmish. The man had a sixth sense for making things difficult. If she translated a report in record time, he'd drop a denser one on her desk. If she organized all the contracts, he'd invent new, impossible-to-meet requirements just to watch her scramble. Is this a war, Sterling? Jessica muttered to herself, juggling a precarious stack of files. Because I am armed and ready. Sterling, of course, happened to be walking by. Eyebrow arched, he stopped. Did you say something, Ms. Miller? Jessica froze. Nothing, just talking to myself. He gave her a once-over, rolled his eyes, and vanished back into his office. Jessica took a deep breath. Okay, Jess, just survive another day. Can't be that hard, right? Jessica was laser-focused, wrestling with a particularly dense financial report. When a document landed right in front of her face, she blinked, looked up. Sterling. Translate this. Deadline? Jessica asked, already bracing herself. He crossed his arms, head tilted, that familiar predatory look in his eyes. Now. Jessica blinked. Now problem? She took a deep breath, grabbed the document. No problem, just wondering if you happen to follow a religion that forbids reasonable deadlines. His eyebrows shot up again. Was that sarcasm, Ms. Miller? Nothing, Mr. Sterling. On it. She retreated to the conference room, locked the door, and translated like her life depended on it. Sterling knew he was pushing her, testing her limits, practically begging her to crack. But Jessica just wouldn't break. 2 hours later, she marched into his office, translated document in hand. Here you go, Mr. Sterling. Proofread and everything. Sterling took the file, scanned it with a hawk's eye. Jessica held her breath, and then, acceptable. Jessica's eyebrow shot up. Acceptable? Yes. Acceptable as in perfect, brilliant, exceeds all expectations, but in Sterling speak? He closed the folder, ignored her teasing. Jessica grinned. Small victories. She'd take them. But Sterling wasn't about to make it easy. That afternoon, a crucial meeting with foreign investors. Jessica was there, poised, professional, translating with precision. The room buzzed with power, men in suits hanging on Sterling's every word, decisions that could move markets hanging in the balance. Then, one of the investors, a slick Italian banker, stumbled over a number. Investment should be 20 million, he stated confidently. The actual figure was 200 million. Jessica caught it instantly. She glanced at Sterling, waiting for him to correct it. Silence. Test. Jessica's heart hammered. Correct him, and she risked overstepping. Don't, and she could tank the deal. Decision made. With a clear, firm voice, she translated, correcting the number without hesitation. The investor blinked, confused for a beat, then realization dawned. He nodded, murmuring apologies. Sterling remained impassive. The meeting continued, but when the investors had departed, Sterling turned to her. You caught that mistake. Quickly. Jessica held her breath. Yes. And you had the courage to correct it. Yes. Silence, and then good job. Jessica blinked. Sorry? Did he just compliment her? Could you repeat that? Sterling's eyebrow went up. Did you just hear me correctly? Because I'm pretty sure I just said... He rolled his eyes. Don't get used to it. Jessica smiled. And for the first time, Alexander Sterling realized he was starting to enjoy her presence. Jessica Miller was beginning to understand Alexander Sterling's operating system, military discipline, obsessive perfectionism, a thick layer of emotional detachment. But beneath the ICE CEO facade, something else flickered, something she couldn't quite decipher. A mystery. And the longer she worked for him, the more compelling it became. The past week had been a trial by fire, but Jessica was determined to prove she belonged. No matter how many eye rolls, how many impossible tasks, how many attempts to make her quit, she'd earned a compliment, a grudging one, sure, but still. Progress. But there was something more to Sterling, a weight he carried, a story he refused to tell. And then, at the company gala, she got a glimpse. The event was opulent, over-the-top New York extravagance. Crystal chandeliers, impeccably tailored waiters gliding through the throng with champagne flutes, guests dripping in designer labels. Jessica was there to assist Sterling, a translator on standby for any international VIPs. He arrived late, which was unusual. And immediately, Jessica knew something was off. He looked paler, more tightly wound than usual, if that was even possible. His eyes scanned the room, restless, searching. Then, a waiter approached, offering him champagne. Sterling recoiled, a sharp, almost violent gesture, stepping back as if burned. "Alexander?" Jessica called, moving toward him. He didn't respond, just walked straight to the balcony, the night air swirling around him. Jessica hesitated, then followed. She found him standing at the railing, back to the party, hands clenched white-knuckled on the iron. His jaw was rigid, breath shallow. "You okay?" "None of your business," he snapped, still not turning. Jessica crossed her arms, leaned against the railing beside him. "You don't look okay." He let out a harsh sigh, finally turning his head, but still avoiding her gaze. "Just need a minute." Silence hung between them, thick with unspoken tension. Jessica realized she'd stumbled onto something raw, something deeply personal. And then, as if making a decision, Sterling spoke. "I hate champagne." Jessica frowned, surprised by the abrupt shift. "You hate champagne?" "Yes." "Any particular reason?" He turned his head, and for a fleeting moment, Jessica saw it. Vulnerability, naked and unexpected. "Yes," he said simply, but offered no further explanation. Jessica could have let it go, pretend she hadn't heard, retreat back to the party, but something told her this was important. "Want to talk about it?" He gave a humorless laugh. "Do I look like someone who talks about feelings?" "Honestly, no," Jessica admitted, "but I think it's time someone tried." He looked at her surprised for a beat. Jessica braced for sarcasm, dismissal. But then he turned away, fell silent. She watched his hand tighten on the railing, knuckles bone white. "A long time ago," he began, voice low, almost a whisper, "I used to like champagne." Jessica waited, breath held, until one day I realized it was always there, during the worst moments of my life. A chill ran down Jessica's spine. The day I lost someone I loved, champagne in my hand, the day my life imploded, event like this, waiters offering champagne to everyone. Jessica didn't know what to say. He never spoke of his personal life. It was like everything before Sterling Corp, before CEO Alexander Sterling, had been erased. "You lost someone important?" she asked softly. He slowly turned his head, looked at her, his gaze for once devoid of arrogance, devoid of ice, just sad, distant. Yes, Jessica felt her heart tighten. Sterling looked away, another sigh escaping him. "Doesn't matter. Past is past." Jessica remained silent for a moment. "It does matter," she finally said. He frowned. "What? What happened to you, Alexander?" "It matters." She saw him close his eyes for a second, shutting down. I don't talk about it. A bitter laugh. Jessica looked at him, a gentle smile touching her lips. But if you ever want to, I know how to listen. She didn't know why she said it, maybe because she sensed no one ever had. For a long moment, Sterling just watched her, studying her face, her expression, her sincerity. He wasn't used to this. Someone caring, someone wanting nothing from him except him. Finally, he looked away. Inside, Jessica nodded. He started walking, but before stepping back into the ballroom, he stopped, glanced at her over his shoulder. Thank you. Almost inaudible, but Jessica heard it, and for the first time, she knew she'd broken through a wall no one else had even approached. And maybe, just maybe, that was a problem. Jessica tried to ignore the strange flutter in her chest, the lingering warmth from that balcony conversation. She didn't want to admit it, but something about Alexander Sterling, something beneath the ice, was getting to her. He was demanding, controlling, infuriating. But there were moments, cracks in the facade, revealing a man carrying a burden too heavy to bear alone. In the days that followed, Sterling became even more distant. He avoided eye contact in meetings, kept their interactions strictly professional. Jessica realized he was rebuilding the wall, pretending the balcony vulnerability had never happened. But the wall wouldn't hold, not for long. A business trip was scheduled, an international conference in Miami. As Sterling's personal interpreter, Jessica was going too. She wasn't worried about work, she knew she could handle that. But spending days trapped in close proximity with Alexander Sterling, uneasy, didn't even begin to cover it. The flight was smooth, but Sterling was a brick wall of silence, eyes glued to his tablet, reviewing reports, ignoring her attempts at small talk. The hotel in Miami was pure luxury, all gleaming marble and dizzyingly high ceilings, exactly Sterling's natural habitat. Jessica collected her room key, ready to escape and decompress, when Sterling's voice cut through the air, cold and sharp. Dinner, 8 p.m., don't be late. Jessica turned, surprised. Dinner? Tonight? With investors? Wear something appropriate. Her eyebrows shot up. Appropriate? Implying I don't know how to dress. He gave her a bored look. Implying you can't show up in whatever you pulled out of your suitcase. Professional image. Fashion guru now, are we? Jessica muttered under her breath. Sterling just sighed, stalked toward the elevator, leaving Jessica to fume. Jerk. Dinner was excruciatingly formal. And, to Jessica's surprise, Sterling seemed different. Still the imposing CEO, but amplified. In this setting, he was untouchable, steel and ice. He maintained a polite, practiced smile, navigating investor conversations, but Jessica saw the mask. Finally, mercifully, dinner ended. Exhaustion washed over them both as they stepped into the elevator. As the doors slid shut, Jessica let out a relieved sigh. Never thought I'd say this, but I actually miss grumpy office Sterling. This social Sterling? Terrifying. He shot her a sideways glance. And I never thought I'd say this, but you talk too much. She rolled her eyes. But before she could retort, the elevator lurched, screeched, and shuddered to a stop. Jessica's eyes widened, snapping to Sterling, waiting for him to say, just a normal elevator quirk. What was that? He jabbed at the buttons, nothing. Looks like we're stuck. A cold wave of panic washed over Jessica. Confined spaces, not her happy place. Trapped in an elevator with Alexander Sterling, nightmare fuel. Stuck? Relax? You're kidding, right? We're in a metal box dangling 100 feet in the air. Sterling looked at her, half annoyed, half something else, almost amused. Ever been stuck in an elevator before? No! Then, he said with infuriating calm, consider this a enriching life experience. Jessica gasped, a sharp, disbelieving breath. Oh, fantastic. Always dreamed of a near-death experience with my unbearable boss. Ignoring her comment, Sterling hit the emergency call button. Brief conversation. Sigh. Gonna be at least an hour. Jessica's eyes widened. An hour? I'm going to die in here. You're not going to die. Sterling's voice was laced with a distinct edge of exasperation. Jessica, elevators are not airtight. You're not going to suffocate. She crossed her arms, started pacing the cramped space. Knew something would go wrong on this trip. Gut feeling. Jessica, don't go. You'll get trapped in an elevator with a man who has the emotional range of a doorknob. Sterling's eyebrows shot up. Emotional range of a doorknob? Yes. You never show emotions. Only time I saw anything remotely human was on the balcony, and even then, shut down in 2 seconds flat. His jaw tightened. But before he could retort, Jessica lost her balance, stumbled. Before she could fall, Sterling's reflexes kicked in, hands snaking out. catching her arm, pulling her close. Fast. Reflex. But suddenly Jessica was pressed against his chest. The elevator shrank. She looked up, met his gaze. No ice. No CEO mask and movie mask. Just Alexander. Jessica's heart slammed against her ribs. Time seemed to warp, distort. She saw the shift in his expression, the flicker in his eyes, the exact moment he realized it too. The pull, the heat, the want. But before anything could happen, the elevator lurched, started moving again. Jessica scrambled back, face burning. Sterling cleared his throat, adjusted his suit, looked anywhere but at her. Doors opened. They stepped out, wordless. Walking in opposite directions down the hotel hallway, Jessica knew something had changed. And from the way Sterling glanced back at her before disappearing into his room, she knew he felt it too. The question was, what now? Jessica woke up determined to erase the elevator incident. Weird moment, slip up, exhaustion, nothing more. But ignoring Alexander Sterling was like trying to ignore a 5-alarm fire, especially since he was now radiating Arctic distance. During meetings, he kept his gaze locked anywhere but on her, trying to pretend nothing had happened, which only made everything 10 times more awkward. After a full day of forced smiles and corporate jargon, the team was invited to another investor dinner. Jessica wanted to crawl under a rock. Exhausted, emotionally frayed, she'd rather be anywhere but a fancy Miami restaurant with Alexander Sterling. But, of course, Sterling decided her presence was essential, not optional, he stated flatly when she tried to protest. You need to be there. And that's how Jessica found herself trapped at a mahogany table, drowning in merger talk, Alexander Sterling, a simmering presence beside her. Deep breath, sip of wine. What could possibly go wrong? Famous last words. Problem manifested in the form of Thomas Bradford, investor and professional creep. Initially friendly banter, then closer leaning, suggestive smiles, voice dropping to a low purr. You're different, he murmured, smile too wide, too knowing, different from other interpreters. Jessica forced a polite smile. Oh, how so? Charming, very charming. Bet you're popular with the gentlemen. Definitely not liking where this was going. Jessica felt the chair beside her shift. Instantaneously, Sterling's voice, ice cold, sharp enough to cut glass, sliced through the air. She's with someone. Jessica froze. With someone, Sterling? Bradford's eyes narrowed. With someone? Sterling took a slow sip of wine, posture relaxed, but his gaze predatory. Yes. Jessica blinked, utterly confused. I am? Sterling glanced at her, a fleeting warning in his eyes. Don't contradict me. Bradford chuckled, a low, disbelieving sound. Funny. She didn't mention it. She does now, Sterling stated flatly. Silence descended, thick and heavy. Bradford, though, wasn't convinced. He leaned closer to Jessica, ignoring Sterling completely. Well, if you ever change your mind, dinner sometime? Fast. Reflex. Sterling slammed his wine glass down, a soft thud that echoed like a gunshot in the suddenly silent room. Before Jessica could even process what was happening, Sterling's voice, low and lethal, cut through the air. She won't change her mind. Bradford raised his hands, palms up, feigning surrender. Relax, Sterling. Joke. But Sterling was anything but relaxed. Jessica was a whirlwind of confusion and something else. Oddly flattered? When dinner finally ended, Sterling vanished without a word, leaving Jessica to scramble after him. The second they were outside in the hotel garden, Jessica exploded. What was that? He stopped walking, turned, looked at her. Me. Solving a problem, before it became one. Problem? You think I'm some classified file that needs extra security? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. Bradford was crossing a line. And you think playing caveman, claiming I'm with someone was the best solution? It worked, didn't it? Jessica's eyes widened. Are you kidding me? He looked at her. A long, intense stare. Those dark eyes seemed to bore right through her. I didn't like the way he was looking at you. Jessica's heart hammered. That doesn't give you the right to claim me. Sterling's jaw tightened. You don't get it, do you? Get what? He took a deep breath. You throw me off balance, Jessica, and I'm not used to that. Jessica blinked, caught completely off guard. What? Before she could process his words, he cupped her face and kissed her. Quick, intense, but different. Full of something raw, something unexpected. When he pulled away, Jessica was still reeling. I don't... Sterling took a shaky breath, like he'd just made a monumental mistake. Forget it. Jessica touched her lips, stunned. Forget it? What do you mean, forget it? He closed his eyes for a beat, opened them again. I shouldn't have done that. Jessica crossed her arms. But you did. Silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken tension. Then, without another word, Sterling turned, walked away, leaving Jessica standing alone in the Miami night, life suddenly, irrevocably complicated. She should be furious, demand answers. Instead, all Jessica could think was, she wanted him to kiss her again, and that was a very, very big problem. Jessica spent the night wrestling with the memory of that kiss. Sterling's lips against hers, the raw emotion in his eyes. Her mind replayed the moment, a loop of heat and confusion, and every time a mix of frustration and something she refused to name churned in her stomach. The kiss wasn't the problem. It was what came after. Forget it. Like it was nothing. Like she was nothing. Jessica rolled her eyes, hauled herself out of bed. No dwelling. Alexander Sterling might be CEO, but he didn't own her thoughts. Normal? She'd act normal. When she arrived at Sterling Corp, she headed straight to the conference room. Sterling already there, laptop open, face buried in reports. He didn't even glance up as she entered. Good morning, Jessica said, voice carefully casual. Nothing, not a flicker. Oh, so now I'm invisible. Jessica crossed her arms, narrowing her eyes. He finally lifted his head, looking at her with that same impassive CEO mask. Not ignoring you, Miss Miller. Busy. Jessica let out a disbelieving laugh. Busy? After last night? All you have to say is busy? What do you want me to say? His voice was flat, devoid of emotion. Jessica felt her face flush. Maybe start with, sorry for kissing you and then pretending it never happened? Sterling sighed, closed his laptop. Look, Jessica, that was a mistake. Her stomach dropped. Mistake? Got carried away. Shouldn't have happened. Jessica let out a humorless laugh. Wow. And here I thought you lacked the capacity to be a jerk. He looked at her, serious, unwavering. Not trying to be a jerk, being honest. Right. Ruthless CEO. Always so honest. She leaned forward, hands on the table. You know what's funny, Alexander? You kissed me, you felt something, but instead of dealing with it like an adult, you're running, like a coward. His eyes flickered, something unreadable in their depths, but he said nothing. Jessica crossed her arms. You can act indifferent all you want, but I know that kiss meant something to you. He pressed his lips into a thin line, stood, adjusted his suit. If you're finished with your speech, Ms. Miller, we have a meeting. Jessica stared, speechless. You're really going to do this? Pretend nothing happened? Just move on? Sterling picked up papers, calmly organizing them. Yes. Jessica huffed, spun on her heel, and stormed out, fury a burning knot in her chest. The rest of the day was a silent war. Every time they crossed paths, Sterling avoided her gaze as if she were invisible. But Jessica knew. It was an act. He was fighting something, and if he thought he could ignore it forever, he was dead wrong. That evening, needing to escape the office, Jessica accepted a dinner invitation from Olivia, a coworker. You've been off, Olivia commented, swirling her wine. Jessica shrugged, twirling her own glass. Work stuff. Work stuff named Alexander Sterling, Olivia laughed. Jessica choked on her wine. Olivia grinned. Jessica, the entire company sees it. Something's going on between you two. The way he looks at you. He doesn't look at me at all, Jessica protested weakly. Exactly. That's why it's obvious. He never looks at anyone. But he used to look at you. Now he's overcompensating. Jessica shook her head. Ridiculous. Nothing's going on. Olivia raised an eyebrow. If you say so. Before Jessica could retort, a voice said her name. She turned, heart slammed against her ribs. Alexander Sterling. Standing there in his usual power suit expression, serious. Always serious. Can we talk? He asked, ignoring Olivia completely. Jessica blinked. Now? Olivia raised her hands. Another glass of wine needed. You two, have fun. Jessica sighed, got up, followed Sterling to a quieter corner of the restaurant. What do you want? She asked, arms crossed. Sterling hesitated, a flicker of something vulnerable crossing his face. You were right. Jessica blinked. Right? He took a deep breath. About the kiss. About how I feel. Jessica's heart pounded. You feel? He nodded, gaze locked on hers. But I don't know how to deal with it. Jessica searched his eyes, looking for any hint of retreat. Then stopped running. Silence. Then, suddenly, he pulled her close, kissed her again. But this time, no hesitation. intense, raw, full of all the emotions he'd been holding back. When they broke apart, Jessica smiled. Now, she murmured, that makes more sense. Sterling chuckled, resting his forehead against hers. I'm terrible at admitting feelings. Jessica laughed softly, and I'm terrible at accepting apologies. He ran a hand down her face. Can we try again? Jessica smiled, real, radiant. We can. And this time there were no more excuses. Jessica woke up with a mix of hope and trepidation. Last night's kiss still burned in her memory, but uncertainty lingered. Sterling wasn't easy. Emotions? Kryptonite. He'd given in, yes, but for how long? At Sterling Corp, curious glances followed her. Gossip spread faster than wildfire. CEO Alexander Sterling, Mr. Iceberg, spotted kissing his interpreter, fuel for office chatter for weeks. Jessica grabbed coffee, headed to the conference room. Normal? She'd act normal. But Sterling wouldn't. He walked in, didn't meet her eyes. Good morning? Voice neutral, detached. Jessica raised an eyebrow. Good morning. Sleep well? He hesitated, answered without eye contact. Yes. You? She held back a smile. Great. Meeting started. Sterling, all business. When Jessica tried to engage, brief, almost indifferent responses. ICE CEO back in full force. The day dragged. By nightfall, Jessica needed answers. She waited until the office emptied, went to his office. You're avoiding me. Sterling sighed, running a hand through his hair. Jessica, Yes, you are. She cut him off, closing the door. Last night you opened up. Now you're shutting down again. Silence. What happened? He hesitated. Don't know if I can do this. Jessica crossed her arms. Do what? Why? He stood, paced the room. I have feelings for you, Jessica. Her heart pounded. Feelings? And... He stopped, looked at her. What if I can't? Can't give you what you deserve? Jessica took a breath, trying to keep her frustration in check. You think I don't know what I'm getting into? I know you have scars, Alexander, but that doesn't mean you can't love again. He looked away. Don't want to hurt you. She stepped closer, cupped his face, made him look at her. Then stop hurting me now. His eyes conflicted. But before he could answer, her phone buzzed. Email, Sterling Corp, official statement. Ms. Jessica Miller has resigned from the company, approved by CEO Alexander Sterling. Jessica froze. What is this? Sterling stiffened. Jessica, she took a step back, phone clutched tight. You signed my resignation? He closed his eyes. Thought wouldn't stay. After, her voice trembled. You decided for me? Deep ache in her chest. Always running away, and now, instead of giving me a choice, you made it for me. Bitter laugh. You know what hurts most, Alexander? I would have chosen you. She turned to leave. He grabbed her arm. Jessica, please. She looked at him, eyes burning. It's over, Alexander, and walked out, leaving him alone. Jessica didn't go back to Sterling Corp. Done chasing someone who kept pushing her away. Airport. Ticket to San Francisco. Relief and sadness tangled in her chest. Commotion erupted. Whispers, pointing. Jessica looked up. Heart stopped. Alexander Sterling. Airport. Desperate. He ran toward her, ignoring the stares. Jessica! She closed her eyes, then faced him. What are you doing here? He gasped, breath ragged. Idiot. I was an idiot. She crossed her arms. Agreed. He let out a shaky laugh. Always challenging me, aren't you? And you, always running. Silence, then. Don't want to run anymore. Jessica's heart slammed. What changed? He looked into her eyes, raw emotion there. Realized, can't live without you. She swallowed hard. Alexander, I love you, Jessica. Her eyes welled. What if don't believe you? He reached into his pocket, knelt. Airport. Alexander Sterling on one knee. Jessica was stunned. What are you... Asking for a chance. Tears streamed down her face. Not fair. He smiled. A real smile, breaking through the ice. Betting everything. She looked at him long, silent moment, then sighed. Hate you, doing this. Here. He smiled wider. Yes? She bit her lip, nodded. Yes. Sterling stood, pulled her into a kiss. Applause erupted. And for the first time, Alexander Sterling knew he wasn't running anymore. Jessica Miller had just crashed into his life like a rogue wave, and he was finally, truly home.